Greetings, Dr. Mark Winton here from the University of Central Florida, Department of Criminal Justice, here in beautiful Orlando, Florida. What I'd like to do in this brief video is mention a few things about scenario planning. I have other videos on scenario planning in other courses, but I wanted to just spend a few minutes relating scenario planning back to our course on terrorism. And basically with scenario planning, we get together and we create different scenarios that are possible related to a specific topic. And this allows us to plan, to research, to try to figure out what to do given any particular situations. And it also helps us to build on ideas and have strategies in place just in case certain scenarios become apparent or occur. So we're looking at all kinds of different features of what may happen and coming up with basically scripts or plots, if you will, or scenarios, and then spending a lot of time trying to figure out what to do. Cornish in 2004 talked about creating alternative scenarios, and in my face-to-face courses before, I've split the class up into groups, and I've had them create different scenarios. The first group created scenarios where things stay the same, where pretty much status quo, where we're not surprised by things. Group 2 focused on where things would go better, more of an optimistic scenario. And Group 3 would talk about where things get worse, more pessimistic, and Group 4 would present a disaster scenario, with Group 5 a transformational or basically miracle scenario. And when it comes to looking at terrorism, one of the areas we might focus on, if we look back at some of the other videos I've made for the course, for example, we may look at different scenarios related to COVID-19 and terrorism. And we talked about 10 of those features that the authors had presented how COVID-19 might impact terrorism. And we could also look at nanoweapons and create different scenarios there, although much more difficult since there's limited information about nanoweapons and the nanoweapon technology. But this gives us a situation to set up these scenarios, a model. And then I also wanted to mention that Cornish talks about wild cards. And a wild card is basically a description of an unexpected event. And it could be positive, it could be negative. Obviously, this has a lot to do with what particular situation we're approaching and how this could have a significant influence or impact on society. In other words, wild card is a surprise. And in the criminal justice field, we have many wild cards. COVID-19 is a wild card. Any accidental nano weapon attack or purposeful nano weapon attack would certainly be considered a wild card. And in other courses, I've had students construct different wildcard scenarios, and they have focused on anti-terrorism activities or Depression-era budget cuts in addressing increasing crime rates, or, for example, a nuclear blast in a thriving community. And so another one they looked at was citizen review boards and committees taking a dominating role in law enforcement and policy decision making. Those I actually are reading from wildcard scenarios that were created probably about 10 years ago. So I'm reading this and I'm thinking, 10 years ago we're talking about wildcards, and now you may begin to say, well, these are more scenarios that we can start thinking about, that we have more experience in addressing, at least with the research. All right, so I just thought I'd bring that in briefly so we can start thinking about how we can start creating different scenarios, and especially with prevention and techniques and strategies, and then intervention, and then follow-up as if needed. And scenario planning is used a lot in criminal justice and in the military and in finances and all that. And so it's not anything new. But then, you know, I think really it came into my mind because I have this. Some of you may be taking the terrorism class with me right now, and also the policy analysis course. So either that's doubly great or doubly real headache. I don't know. Hopefully things are going well in both courses. But I mean, if you have me for 2 different courses the same semester, I thank you for that. And greatly appreciate that. But you know, we did a scenario planning and policy, and that's where it hit me. I should be doing scenario planning in the terrorism course as well, or at least mentioning it. Especially, you know, as think about creating different scenarios related to COVID-19. Think about creating different scenarios related to nanotechnology and nano weapons. And I think that really gets the innovation and creativity going in us as we address those issues. And I will wrap up this video here. Thank you.